this button.
Get out of here! Get out!
You are listening to the Freelancer Codex, a podcast brought to you by the Shut Up and Respawn Network.
Hey everyone, it's episode 170. Mike and I are discussing the future of the podcast and what we are trying to decide on. So we were doing that with our patrons earlier, and we just cut them off since it's 8:30 now, and we're going to continue the discussion because that's really what we're talking about right now. So my thing is like I did have like a huge hey, we're going to do this and then we'll hit these numbers, and this is the goal for Twitter followers, this is the goal for YouTube subs, and this is how many guests I want to have on. And like that was all part of like, hey, as Anthem gets bigger and bigger, like this is like the trajectory, because I didn't want to stay stagnant. I wanted it to grow into something, because
right,
like there's always that thought in the back of your mind, like, hey, you know, if people like this, or if this game blows up, you know, you could become a personality. You could make this into like, not like, hey, support your entire family on podcast income. I mean, some people do that, and that's kind of like, that's the dream and hope. Hey, you work hard enough, you stick with it long enough, that'll work. And I don't know if it's just like unlucky that like each and every time I've like, hey, let's do this Anthem thing. Because I mean, we've even done that. We've even started podcasts before this. I mean, there was a long time ago, we like tried to do a podcast, and that's just always been like something I've wanted to do, because creatively, it's like, hey, this would be a lot of fun. You can just kind of discuss things, and it's just fun to talk about video games. But it makes more sense if you like pick a game or you don't pick a game, because if you pick a game and that game fails, like what do, right? You stop after 2.5 years, and like, oh crap, all the momentum you build up just kind of goes away, because a lot of the people that tune in, they tune in for that game. And if they're not playing that game, if no one's playing that game, then they just kind of go away. And if you try to turn that into like a variety show, like right there at the middle, it's like, well, that's really difficult to do, first off, and then to keep that engagement. And then, you know, if you lose two hosts that were there, then that kind of like, you know, takes the hit also. And then you're like, okay, what do you do now? So,
yeah. It's a tough question, because like if you follow the life of it and just how it went out, and kind of like our own investment into it, our own what we wanted out of it, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean there definitely have been more creative hosts than me on the show who we've relied on heavily with knowledge of systems and consoles and, you know, the back end of games. We had a game come out that we enjoyed playing, that we started seeing problems early on, that we started seeing communication issues early on with those who were trying to support it. It had the life that it did. Anthem had the life that it did. The show went through the iterations and evolutions that it did for one reason or the other. And it's turned into what it is now, which I don't think is bad, but I definitely understand the kind of like that drive and that desire, and that like, okay, define it. What is this really? What are we working for? Because as a productive person, you want to have a goal in mind. You want to be able to work. You want to be working towards something. And so when that bottom kind of falls out, you don't know kind of what to grab onto to kind of hang out with. So,
well, yeah, and it's kind of like you jump out of an airplane and you think you have a chute, and then at some point you're like, okay, as long as I don't hit the ground, I don't die, right? So you keep going along. You keep hoping that you either continue to fall or you hit the ground and you like start over. And as my personality of like not wanting to admit defeat, like, and I think I probably did this to myself, because like in the beginning, it's like, hey, like we're not going to stop. We're never going to stop until they shut the servers down. But even after they're like, hey, we're not doing anything, I mean, eventually those servers will get shut down and Anthem will be unplayable in some form or fashion. I'm sure someone will be able to like spin those up. But it's like, well, I didn't expect that to actually happen. I expect to like
right?
I fully
That's just
expect
something
it.
you say, right? That's just
Yeah.
something you say when you think you've got a good trajectory. You're like, yeah, this is gonna go someplace, and we're here until it closes. And then next thing you know, you're staring at the closing sign in your face, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
right,
cuz
the
I
yard sale sign is in the lawn, and so
yeah, I fully expected that at episode 170 we would be talking about nerfs, or we would be talking about an upcoming event that BioWare had planned. We'd be
shoot, we could have been on 2.5 right now, or even
right.
3.0, right? The next whatever's coming, the seventh javelin, or
Yeah,
the hip smasher, the ranger mace that was just wrecking face all over the place, and like
and
couldn't,
rhyming. Yeah.
like, leaving things without a trace, and
And
so
knock everyone into outer space. Like I
I
fully
like it.
expected, yeah, that would be happening, but then it's like, all right, I guess this is like it's and I don't it's like, okay, it's just time to admit defeat and like to turn it off. And I feel
Right.
bad because we also have like people that like support us on Patreon that like continue to like support us and be
Do
like,
that,
hey,
right? To do
keep.
that.
And I don't know if it's like keep talking or they just completely forgot that we do this and they're like we're taking their money somehow. So and then that thing always weighs on me. It's like, do they know that that I'm still taking their money? Do they know that? And that always just like weirds me out anyway. So all that said, as Mike and I have been discussing, I think like I am finally ready to like admit defeat. I don't want to say admit defeat.
I'm
We
gonna
weren't
stop you
defeated.
there.
Look,
Yeah,
Anthem
I'm gonna
gave up
stop you there
before we
because
did.
it wasn't a defeat on our part, right? It was at this point, I think it was a war of attrition, and Anthem's resources ran out. We took it much further than that, right? We've been, what, a year plus since Anthem's resources ran out. Recently they kind of threw in the towel when we heard that Anthem 2.0 was scrapped, that there was going to be nothing. And so I I know how you feel, and as like that giddy optimist that I think I am sometimes, like, don't feel that way. This wasn't a defeat on our part. This was us, like, taking it all the way, right? We grabbed the ball, we ran as far as we could, we crossed the finish line and then some. And there's no shame in saying, you know what, this is going to be the end of the Freelancer Codex as we know it, or as we have known it, because we've changed since the end of Anthem. We've become a current media type, Disney Plus critique show, just because that's been the content that we've been consuming because of the MCU coming out. So I don't think it's a defeat. I think that it's a natural closing to a pretty big book, in our lives.
Yeah, and I think we probably should have done this a long time ago, right? Like when we heard the news that Anthem was shutting down, we should have like sat down, had a conversation, and then pivot. I guess we kind of did, and then something else. Well, anyway,
Well, but
um,
then we wanted to keep going, right? Because of the support that we've had from the community, because of the strong Discord that is there, because of the personalities and the people that we've met there, because of the patrons who are with us every month, giving us their support. So we do feel that pressure, and we wanted to put a product out, and we put out the best product that we had, trying to transition and pivot to the next thing, right? But then, like every human, I shouldn't say every human because everybody's different, but when you get like burnt by something, which I think we did in the case of Anthem, you're really hesitant to kind of jump on again, right? So you get back, you fall off the horse, you get back up, you dust yourself off, and you want to jump back on. And I think we did once we saw the problems, and we changed a little bit. But then we even fell off again when we lost a host, and we got ourselves back up and we jumped on again. And we were securing interviews, and we were talking about things that we were passionate about, and we were on that horse again. Um, but I think we've been bucked off, and this time it stings a little bit more than normal. I definitely want to get back on again, because Cap says because if Cap can get up and we all want to be like Cap, then we need to get back up, right?
Yeah. And I think in order to do that, it'll be because so one thing that won't change. So the Freelancer Codex RSS feed, podcast feed won't go away. I will continue to be posting daily headline recaps. That's something that I've done this week. I've kind of enjoyed doing that. That's just another creative outlet. I think talking about video games and putting it here, I think that's okay. Like, I don't know if I want to like go and start a brand new like RSS feed for that, because I also don't want to like completely shut down the Codex feed. I kind of want it to live there. There's a lot of cool, I think it's a cool like look at, hey, this is a whole history, a whole verbal history of Anthem. And I think that's important to have. Like, I have all of the episodes, everything that we've talked about, everything that ever happened in Anthem. Like, we have that history here on my computer and on the feed, so I don't think we're going to lose that. So I'm going to continue to put out those quick 10-minute, audio things about the things that are happening. So I'm going to do that there at the Freelancer Codex. I think what Mike and I are going to do is we will probably take a break from the long form stuff like we're doing here, and we are probably just going to spin up another show where we do not have the expectation or this weird like lingering cloud of you're supposed to be talking about this game and you're not talking about this game. And I think that's going to be something that I am not going to strive to like try to build into anything like massive, like, because I tried really hard to get the Codex to a place where and we did good. We were, we had a lot of listeners throughout the run. We were having developer interviews. I mean, we got interviews with a lot of people on the Anthem team. We got interviews with Greg Kasavin, writer of Hades, which is the biggest game of last year. So like, our little outlet, being able to talk to someone like Greg, talk with the guys over at White Moon Dreams, and talk with, Sarah Amale, the voice actress for the Freelancer in Anthem. I mean, we took some pretty huge swings, and it was pretty cool. And that was a lot of work. That was a lot of, media management, a lot of, building the website, managing all the social medias, and that's a lot of work. And I did a lot of that on my free time, and did a lot of that on my own, and then, editing, posting, doing all that stuff. It takes a lot out of you. It's a lot of work. And, just having that stress of seeing numbers and increasingly continue to go down is just kind of like, I don't want to say it's like a hit to the ego, but it kind of is, right? Like when you see your numbers up at one point and then you see them continue to fall, and you're like, what am I doing? Like, why am I?
Because then you start like looking internally, right? Like what is it that we're doing that is not working? What changed this time from last time? Because then we start, really going into it. All right. Like what it is, so yeah. And, and a little bit more to like what's going on, like, and I don't know if you want to say this here or not, but as far as I go, I mean, there are some things coming up that like we could use a break, right? Could get some life choices kind of figured out, and career paths, and busy time of year for the kiddos, and really trying to go through that struggle to put out really meaningful stuff versus just stuff to say that we're putting stuff out.
Right.
Because there's a huge difference, and we've both talked about this, that yeah, we could run this forever, but is it meaningful? Is it worth someone's time to listen and or watch? So this, it may all just be coming to a nice kind of like, not a stopping point, because we are not stopping by any means, but this might be like our mid-season hiatus kind of thing. So
I think it's like when, normally in animes, when they have their first season and they have the normal voice actors, and then they come back for season 2 and all the voice actors have changed. Maybe it's kind of like that. But yeah, I think it's something that we're going to kind of reassess what our plans are, what we're going to do, and because we will do something in the future, and it'll just be us talking about whatever we want without the ghost of Anthem's past hanging over us. Right. Or Anthem's future getting ready to kick Ebenezer Scrooge into his own grave. So,
right. Like, yeah. And we hope everybody joins us back when we come back, and we still get to have the same kind of interaction. And but like Steve said, the Discord isn't going away, and because there's still great convos and things happening that aren't anthem centered going on there. So that's definitely not going away. But sometimes you just got to look and retool and kind of figure out what it is.
Sometimes you just got to learn how to let these things go.
Right. So
And maybe that's the lesson, just learning when to let go, right? Maybe
yeah,
that's the lesson
maybe.
I have to learn.
I think that's a
So,
lesson that a lot of people could learn when to like. There's a time to play that shot, and there's a time to leave it in the bag. So
yeah. And maybe it's time to just put that thing away and hit the green. So, Mike,
yep.
let's first of all thank everyone that has stuck with us and have been with us in one form or fashion. If whether you listen to one episode or if you listen to all 170 episodes, whether you listen to all those anthem stories that I narrated and put sound effects to, like all that stuff. Like, we appreciate our community immensely. You made it easier to do all this. We made a lot of good friends and a lot of people we will continue to talk to. So we appreciate our community for that. We appreciate Julius, Nathan B, Michael R, Trent B, Man and Still, Scout 69, Dragonheart 76, Jeffrey H, The Gameplay Experience, RZ, and Phaedron. And I will be shutting the patron off. You could probably still go get all the bonus shows, but I'll be shutting off the payment, so no one's getting charged for anything else for the Freelancer Codex. So I'll be turning that off. And again, we thank you so very much. And if it's like something, hey, you want to continue to support us in whatever we do for the future, or if you want to continue to support the daily news headlines, you can do that. Just let me know, and I can turn it back on. But as of right now, I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. So thank you, everyone that has supported us. All right, Mike, speaking of stuff that you have been doing, what have you been up to this week?
man, you kind of throw it to me on like a sad, somber note, man. I
I
mean, this
know.
is like game changing, right? I don't know if I am ready for that. Like, it's sad. It's not like it's sad, but
No, it is.
So what I have been up to this week, I have been kind of mentioned it before, but going through a few kind of life choices and things. Interviewed for a job. Decided that where I was now in my profession wasn't where I wanted to be. Not that I disliked it by any rate. I've been a PE teacher for 10 years now at an elementary school, and have since learned some systems, learned some things about myself, got some certificates and some extra degrees under my belt, as most teachers do, to kind of start moving up the ladder to help in different areas. I praise the teacher who can be in the same classroom for 30 years. I think that's awesome. I am not that person.
That's a
I
long
cannot.
time.
That's a long time to be in the
I
same
mean,
classroom teaching the same content.
10 years is a long time. And like in our
Mhm.
day and age, in our economy, with like the way things are, it seems like people stay for 3 or 4 years and then they change or they move on. But 10 years is a long time, man. That's a long
It
time
is.
to be at the same place.
It is a long time to be at the same place and doing the same things, and working on systems and really working out the bugs and creating like a great program, a program that kind of can run itself almost, right? When you teach kids routines and the way to do things, you'd be surprised at how well they can manage it on their own with little interaction from myself. And so it's kind of, I don't want to say painting yourself into a corner, because that's really the whole point, right? A great teacher isn't always talking, right? A great teacher gives a few nuggets, and the kids go out and experiment with it and learn from it and make mistakes and fail and pick themselves back up and do it again, right? So I'm kind of been to that point where I've gotten pretty good system down at my school. Um, I've I've kind of reached the top of that ladder, and it's kind of time to get off. at the landing and kind of start climbing another one.
Yeah.
So I interviewed for a job and it didn't go the way that I would have hoped it went, but what I think it did is it kind of let me know that, all right, although you like this school a ton, maybe it's time to look elsewhere for the opportunities. And so I think that's kind of what's going to happen. So I've got to turn my attention and my focus to that, and that's going to be challenging because it's a big step up, and so it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of stretching, a lot of good stretching. Right? It's not so daunting that you're going to just freeze in the headlights. It's enough of a challenge that you know you can face it. You can take it head on, grab the bull by the horns, all those adages that we learn to kind of help us keep going, right? So
Yeah, I think one of the hardest things to do is when you're in that comfort zone is to extend out of it, right? But it's probably something that you need. Like when you are feeling comfortable, like your progression stops.
stops.
So you need to reach out of yourself, out of your little bubble that you've created, your bubble of comfort. And I think they have a word for that. I'm not comfort zone or something.
Comfort zone, I think is
Because
what it is.
and you need to be kind of scared. You need to be nervous about the moves that you're making, because if you're not, then you're not growing, you're not progressing. I mean,
Absolutely.
seeds have to break out of their shell first, then they have to break out of the ground, and they continue to reach up and grow. And if you're not doing that, because like you said, there are people that 30 years, I mean, there are people that we know from back in 2007 that worked at Lowe's, and again, like it works for some people, it works, but they're still there, they still work
Yep, their
there.
careers. Yep, they're going to be they're lifers, and
And that's fine for them, but
yeah.
at some point you have to look inward and say, like, okay, am I going to be a lifer? Is this where I'm going to stop? Is this where I'm going to peak? Because if as we worked in Lowe's, like there's a place where eventually you can't go higher
Yeah.
and you are stopped there. There's no more upward progression. You will be a customer service representative, and that is all you can ever be, because you made someone mad or for whatever reason. You
For
just stop
whatever
there.
reason, right?
And like, when your growth stops, like, I've been at my job, this will be the 11th year I've been working in the field that I've been working in. So, and it's like, well, that's like a career. Like, and
Mhm.
one of the scary things is like, okay, how do I start over? Right? Like, it's impossible to start over. How could I go do anything else than this because of where you are financially? Like starting over into a starter position anywhere else, that's like a
Well,
terrifying notion.
but then you have some of those built-in kind of those built-in hurdles that are kind of holding your back, right? So maybe your retirement doesn't transfer to a different field, and you're far enough into it to where if you leave, that's not a wise choice, right? You
Right.
can't just leave your retirement on the table. Maybe, so those are those built-in things in jobs where like I really can't, and this is how I get stuck in places. And I think there's a good part of the population that is stuck in their job for those very reasons. But like you say, I think especially in education, also there are those special type of people who can be in the same classroom for 30 years, and I really do have a lot of respect for them. I know have known many of them. I was doing the math. I was doing the math at school today. We're getting near the end of the school year, so we're learning about all the people who are retiring, and and after learning about the people who are retiring this year, I will be number 7 as far as how do I say this, Steve?
Tenure.
There are 7 people who have been at my school longer than me.
Wow.
Yeah, on a staff of 60.
Yeah.
There are
And
7 who have been there longer than me. And that's like, okay, number 1, that makes you stop and think and go, "All right, am I where I want to be?" I kind of have I broke my teaching career, or have broken it into 3 different sections, right? Because I don't want to do the same thing the entire 30 years that I have to be in that I'm going to be employed in education.
yeah.
So, and I broke it up into thirds. Like I can do 10 years here, I can do 10 years here, and then I can do 10 years here. For me, that's enough of a break, enough of a change. For me, 10 years was enough to get my feet wet, learn the system, perfect the system, and then kind of move on to something else. I've already been, I've already been 1 year longer than what I wanted to be, which is fine because not all the opportunities present themselves when, like, according to my timetable. So, right. So I'm like plus or minus 2 years on each side, right? But I think it's time to kind of start seriously looking, after you put some feelers out. And so it got me to thinking one of the things that, like, life changes and life choices, those are hard for some people. And I want to know how people like cope and deal and like kind of, work with those because they can either make or break you, seems like, right?
No, it
Um,
definitely can. I mean, like for me, like change is hard. Like I am very much like, hey, this is like the hole I live in. Nothing's gonna change. This is the route I go from work, and like breaking out of that is like, it gives you anxiety. It makes you scared because of all the unknowns, like meeting new people and new roads and going to new places and like, how am I going to stick out because I don't belong here, because I'm not from here? I don't know what the protocols are. I don't know, there's all those things that go
the
through your
culture,
head.
the language,
Yeah, exactly.
those unwrittens and unspokens, right? Like the culture of a school, the makeup, the unspoken pecking order,
Right.
right?
And like, how am I going to make a fool of myself? Like, dude, I still have like nightmares of this. So like back in high school, I would I would like keep track of how many times I thought I made an idiot of myself at school.
Nice.
Like I had a notebook and I would like mark it down. Anytime I was like, oh man, that was really stupid. And it's like just like this, okay, can I go through a full day without making an idiot of myself? And like just like having that kind of mentality of like, oh, watching what you say, trying to survive and being like, having it's like, yeah, I still have that to where I'm like, all right, don't mess up, don't mess up. And you
Did
think
you really
about,
have a notebook?
yeah, I did. And you think about it so much that it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're like, oh, I did the thing because I was so
I don't want to
focused on
mess
the
up. I don't want
thing.
to mess up, so I mess up.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just,
It's tough. It's tough to go through, and it's tough to navigate those waters in high school. It's tough to navigate those waters in your professional life. It's tough to do it no matter where you are. I would like to think that maybe some of the more seasoned business people or even teachers, administrators, I would like to think that they've got it figured out, but then part of me is also like, no, that's probably not something you ever really are like, yeah, I got this going. I'm good at this.
yeah, I wouldn't think so. I mean, I don't know. You know a lot of people in the education field that are just like, nope, this is how I'm going to do it. This is how I did it 30 years ago. This is how I'm going to do
That
it
is
now,
true.
and I'm going to die on
I'm
this
still
hill.
gonna print my transparencies and use my overhead, and so yeah,
Yep,
it's rather interesting.
this is not how we math back in my day. Anyway, I think,
Exactly.
yeah. So I'll go over my stuff real quick, and then as a final, we will cover the finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier,
Ooh.
and then that's where we'll leave it for a while until you hear back from us. So one thing I have been doing, my wife and I have been watching the new Netflix show called Shadow and Bone. This is based off of a
Oh, I wanted to
YA
see that.
novel. It's pretty interesting. We are 4 episodes in. It's got some high production values. The world's kind of interesting. So they've got people that can do magic, and it's kind of like in the middle of like World War II where people have repeating rifles, and there's this army, and there's this thing in the middle, and there's a chosen one storyline. I don't know how much I enjoy this chosen one storyline because there's always seems to be a chosen one that's got to do the thing. Interesting cast of characters. I think we have been enjoying it so far. I think it's like worth the time. I mean, it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, what else are you gonna watch? You might as well watch Shadow and Bone. But I've been enjoying it. Also, Mike, I don't know. We have been watching a lot of superhero stuff. You should check out Invincible on Amazon Prime. I think you might like this show. It is
Okay.
animated. You should check
I
it out.
have seen it. I have seen it show up on my Prime. So
So tomorrow is the season finale of the first season. We just got word that it has been renewed for 2 seasons, so that's how well the show is doing. They're not just doing one more season; they're going for 2. I think you might like it. I'm really enjoying Invincible. I think it's got an interesting characters, an interesting story. The animation kind of reminds me of Batman the Animated Series. It's not like anime animated. It's like Western animation type deal. Not like Avatar: The Last Airbender, but it's kind of old school. It'll just linger on a shot of people staring at each other, that kind of thing. But
like Dragon Ball.
no, Dragon Ball. I mean, there are episodes where they just lingered on each other. I mean, that's a whole nother level of animation. But you know what? When you have 300 episodes, if you can get away with just showing one drawing that you did for an entire episode, that's just efficient, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's like doing it. That's
yeah,
finding those systems and finding those exploits in that systems. That's pushing Atheon off the edge. Right?
exactly. And that guy's like, get this guy a raise. This is the same frame, and we extended it for 30 minutes of Goku just like screaming into the air. Like, I don't know how yeah, you don't get much better than that. All right, so I got vaccinated. I'm full vax now. Like the second shot knocked me down pretty hard. Like while I was at work, that was rough. So hopefully I'll get superpowers soon. Not sure which
Nice.
superpower I will get. I prefer like Magneto style superpowers, being able to control magnetic fields. I think that would be cool. So either that or storm superpowers, being able to control the weather. Like one of those two, top tier. Don't really want like Toad superpowers where you just turn into a frog. That seems pretty lame as far as superpowers go. So don't really want that one. So
That would be pretty lame. We also kind of started playing with some cryptos, huh? That was kind of fun.
I don't know if we should like go around telling people we're playing with crypto because yeah,
Eh,
it's been an interesting.
everybody's doing it. Maybe not.
Eventually, when the U.S. dollar dies and all there is Dogecoin and people like wearing hats with Shiba dogs on it, that might be all that we have is Doge. So yeah, that's been kind of interesting. It's nice when you can just like not look at your crypto wallet and just be like, okay, I'm putting this down. It's also like the DeFi. Like the blockchain is interesting. Like blockchain is very complicated. I don't even know how to explain the blockchain. I feel like Asgard's just kind of up there somewhere in space, and like Thor just kind of gets there whenever, and it's just kind of there. I think that's what the blockchain is. Something's happening up there. I think it's important, and you can access it some way through your phone. So I'm not exactly sure how that all goes, but hey, you know what? If we're rich in like 5 years, then it was all worth it, right? It was all
We
worth
do
the
have to
burned
say
down
we're not
trees.
financial planners. We're not financial advisors. Everything we say is for entertainment purposes only. But it's kind of fun just to, because I think some of it may be a little bit like, where were you during GameStop and AMC and the cryptos of 2021? Like we at least tried it. We put our hat in the ring. We kind of learned the different systems, how to buy the different coins and tokens, the complex way that needs to be done, the mess ups that you have. It's kind of fun to learn and just to be a part of and do, and who knows what it'll turn into, right? It doesn't seem like it's in the cards that I am one of those people that gets to have a bank account that uses commas.
And that's weird because I think that's what they want us to feel like. They want us to feel like, yeah, you'll never be rich. Like you will work all your life. You will never have enough money to buy that gallon of milk that you need. You will struggle. You will never have, like, I think that's kind of like how it's set up, right? Like, you can't be rich like us. Like, I'm rich. Like, you can't be rich up here. So good luck. I'm going to continue to be rich while you are going to suffer. So I think like, as we look at Bitcoin and, Bitcoin 8 years ago, when someone's like, oh, I bought Bitcoin at 3 cents and I sold it at 30, I made such a big profit. And then you're like, oh, dang. And then it's like, well, if Bitcoin
you
can
didn't
do it, if
you didn't.
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you still gain. Hey, you got to realize your gains, and even though you didn't sell it, you didn't sell your coins when it was $65,000 per Bitcoin. Like that's life, I suppose. Like what can you do? You can't go back in time and change this. You just gotta cry and be like, hey, you got 30 cents per Bitcoin.
Yeah, and just wonder what could have been, right?
Yeah.
But there's no wondering what could have been if you never put your shoe in the ring or hat in the thing, right? So like it's
However that
fun.
saying
It's a
goes.
however whatever that adage is, right? That we said. But yeah, so that's the thing that we were both been trying out and doing. So
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Spoilers for the season finale of Falcon and the Winter Soldier happens now.
Rule number 2.
You know I ain't got it. Rule number 2.
Nobody gets hurt. It's a big one.
And why isn't there rule number 1?
I always wanted to be an Avenger.
Oh man, it's a dream come true, you know?
We need someone to inspire us again. Someone who can be a symbol for all of us.
We need new heroes.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Episode 6, One World, One People. I've been doing a lot of research and like getting a lot of takes on Falcon on the Winter Soldier, just because we kind of had extra day to listen to it. I think the general consensus of the show is like, yeah, that was cool, right? I mean, is that the same vibe that you're getting? It's like, yeah, all right,
yeah,
moving on.
it was what we had. It was what we watched, right? So like it wasn't it and it wasn't terrible, right? Like if you listen to the rest of our shows, you might glean that we think that it was bad. It definitely does. It definitely has some bright spots, but it definitely has some low points. Overall, it's not terrible. It's entertaining. We were entertained every time we watched it. We rolled our eyes at a few parts, but that's okay. Overall, it was entertaining.
Was that me or was that you?
No, that was you. I heard it on your end.
I don't know what it would be from, though. Like, I have nothing turned on, so I'm not sure exactly where it came from. So, as we open, and I don't think I'd want to go, I actually don't want to do, like, a step-by-step like we have on this one, just because it's, like, I really don't want to go through that. So, I think we'll touch on, like, some high-level stuff here. So, let's discuss the Flag Smashers, and why so far...
Do we have to, though?
And why so far...
Let's start it, like... At like
so
okay,
if
we can start
I want to start at the bottom and work towards the top, so at the end it's like overall positive. I don't want to just be like super negative, because the Flag Smashers, like from the beginning of the series, we did not have much of their motivations. We did not get a sense of who they were, what exactly they were fighting for, who they were fighting for, and why they thought this was the best way to go about it. Carly Montague, whatever her last name was never like an inspiring character. The way she delivered her lines, the delivery, the situation, maybe it was the writing, maybe it was just like, hey, this is what I think. Like, just not an interesting character. I think the most interesting villain, because like even here now, like I don't know if this show would actually, well, Zemo is a villain, so I'll just add him in. Like Zemo being a villain and having Batroc in there, like if those two were the villains of this show, I think I could get on board with that. I think Batroc would have been a good foil to Sam. They are both normal, both pretty strong. Batroc can leap around, and he's French. But other than that, like the Flag Smashers, the other people that we have fought, like I don't know if there was a through line, and maybe COVID happened. Maybe they had to adjust some things to make it a different show than what they had planned. But the villains in the show, like, just never really coalesced into, like, a huge threat for me. Like, even as we get towards the tower, because in this thing, like, the Flag Smashers are going to stop the GRC vote. At first, they're like, we got to stop the vote. We'll kidnap them, or we'll kill them, or we'll kidnap them, then try to kill them. There was never, like, even in the beginning, like, all the senators were just kind of in the building, like, standing around like a bunch of horses, being like, so what do we do? And I'm like, where's the security getting these people out of there or doing something? Like the lights are going crazy, it's red, and people are just like, what's going on? The lights are weird. And everyone's like, okay. It's so a lot of weird stuff happening. And I wish there was a better villain for Sam and Bucky to go up against, other than just the super soldiers, plus the other super soldiers that never really said anything. I mean, if you were to, like, if this was if there was Bucky and Sam versus 8 super soldiers, like, the super soldiers should have, like, kicked the crap out of these guys and just, like, moved on, right? But they just weren't used in any interesting way or giving any type of story. And most of them didn't even seem like they were on board with what Carly was, like, feeding them anyway. And
that was very apparent this episode that a lot of them, that Carly had gone off, right? She had gone off and was doing things that the other flag smashers that we saw weren't in agreement with, right? She, to the point where Carly had to do the whole, you know, I'm going to say our motto and you have to repeat it right away. And they didn't repeat it right away. So she had to say it again. And there's this like pseudo moment of tension. Carly's motives, the flag smashers' motives, were never defined at the beginning. They never got defined throughout. We only really vaguely know what they wanted. Zemo, great villain, should have been in it more. Maybe. I think maybe he could have been one of those that, like, if we see too much of him, we're like, oh, he kind of is lame now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
stop you right there for just 1 second before we get into that.
Okay.
We just got Big Willie 371 in the chat says, quote, "I see your face, dear child. It consumes my mind. Your life is fleeting before you. Don't you understand? With every day, the kiss of death becomes closer and closer. Judge not me for being in this imprisonment, but judge yourself for not having enough courage to look at yourself and think how trapped you are." End quote. That comes from Big Willie 371. There's more. Should I read more? There's more now. I'm kind of scared to read it, Mike.
Yeah, maybe you should read it beforehand as I kind of talk a little bit so you can kind of screen where it's coming from.
No, I got the hiccups. Dang it.
Got the hiccups. So this episode opens up to a fight that I thought was actually kind of cool, and a reveal that I thought was actually done really well, because this is when we first see Sam bust out his Captain America Falcon uniform, his new threads, right? He punches through the tower.
Oh, what do you think what do you think of his new uniform?
I like the uniform from the shoulders down. I think it's good. I wasn't like too happy with the way that it goes over his head. And I did notice that I don't think he liked it either. If you'll notice, when Anthony Mackie is wearing the costume, like, he can't stop blinking. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if the tint of the glasses, because it looks like they were kind of like that HD type lenses. So I can see that he looks like a Falcon, right? The way that it comes up kind of around his neck. I get it. He looks like a Falcon. It's weird that his ears are sticking out. Like, he's got little holes cut for his ears, and they're like, oh, there's his ears. And you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. Overall, I really liked it. I liked the integration of the wings and the shield. I was really excited about that. I liked how he crashed through the window and did his 3-point landing. His battle between him and Batroc wasn't terrible. They are evenly matched, and it really was a great. It wasn't as. There were some. If you watch it, you could pick out some parts where you're like, oh, that's him and Cap in Winter Soldier, right? Because they did that. They did a throwback to that, and I caught that, and that was kind of cool. So I was impressed by that.
Yeah,
it wasn't the best. I think there was a little bit of shaky cam, and the cutting wasn't the greatest.
And
I like seeing fights.
And I think,
like seeing the whole fight.
And I think the show suffered from its fight choreography. Like, I was kind of because if you remember, like, Civil War or even Winter Soldier, like the fight in the hotel where they're jumping down the staircase, like, there's some really good fight choreography in the Captain America movies. I think there was not a lot of good choreography in this show when there could have been. The fights, like you said, they're cut very fast. You can tell it's like, hey, Carly's putting on a mask. There's a stunt double. Like, it's very obvious when that's happening. Like, even if, and I think one of the disadvantages to us, like, slowing down, going through these the show frame by frame, like all that stuff is very apparent when you're like scrubbing through video of like, okay, he punched way over the head. Someone missed their cue here because this person just jumped to the side and kicked out at nothing. So there's a lot of stuff in there that, you know, when you watch it once and you see it for the spectacle, it's really easy to miss those things. But as you go over it again, you're like, okay, there's not really a lot here. Also, like Batroc throws a chair at the shield and knocks the shield out of the air, which is kind of weird when like Sam's using the shield to bust open helicopters and go through windows, and you're like, man, that's one strong shield, I guess, or one strong chair.
I have to imagine and think that vibranium weighs a little bit more than PVC plastic, right? Like you know, when Sam can pick up the shield with his fingertips, like, and just like, okay, it's up now. Like there has to be some kind of weight to it other than, because he did that when because I watched again, and like when he's giving the shield back, he picks it up like that, and it's like super light, and you can tell it's a prop, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, vibranium's super light though. That's like one of its attributes of being really light.
It is super light.
Yeah, vibranium is super light. So it's very strong.
I'm okay with that then.
Yeah, and that's just kind of one of the attributes of vibranium itself. But you are correct. Like there still needs to be some weight, because I mean, like anytime someone hits someone with that vibranium shield, they go flying back. So anyway, it's vibranium. It's magic. It comes back to you. Defies gravity.
So moving on, what do you think about John Walker and his entrance and his homemade shield that ended up looking a whole lot better than what we saw him making at the end of episode 5?
He must have gone to like a real
what do you
welder.
think about his whole kind of his arc, if you can call it an arc?
His arc was not very good. I think that he redeemed himself like very quickly, and him and Bucky were just like, hey, yeah, cool, man, let's go, let's do this. I don't know if they were just like, hey, we just need another super soldier, but him like being bad, killing the dude, coming back, like I know people are like, oh, he redeemed himself. Like, no, he didn't. He still killed someone. Still like he's not a good guy. He's a bad guy. And
right, he's got to be off his, like, the serum is affecting him. There was a little spot in I think it was the end of episode 5 when does he debut the US agent suit? Is it the end of episode 5 or is it in the end of 6?
End of 6.
End of 6. So there's one part where he does like a little head twitch kind of thing. You're like, oh, this dude's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
and that would be fine, but again, like I think the same thing that happened at the end of WandaVision, where there's no responsibility, like Wanda just like entrapped all these people and then just pieces out. There's no, what's the word I'm looking for?
Consequences.
There's no consequences for her at all. She just leaves. Like we know that John was like stripped of his rank or whatever, but he's still just walking around. He like put on the shield, like put on his uniform and is walking around police cars and police units, intervening with U.S. senators who should have at this point their armed guard, who should have had better protocols when it came to like, all right, like if this space is compromised, something is going to happen, right? But then they show that the Flag Smashers have infiltrated every key position. We're helicopter pilots now. We drive the armored trucks. We're in everything, right? Yeah,
this
we're
is like
just
a whole.
We're
it's a whole Hydra thing
need,
again.
Yeah, we're wherever we need to be for the plot.
Yeah.
And again, like this is something that, because the Flag Smashers are kind of lame, like Carly called in a lot of people at that park. They're just like everyone in the park happened to be a Flag Smasher. But then, as you do in these things, like towards the end, it's like, this is something that always bugged me about Mulan, the cartoon. Like when they're doing the let's get down to business fight choreography, there's like, I don't know, 200 soldiers. By the time like the army for Mulan is walking out through the snow, there's like 12 of them. And it's like the same thing because like, well, we don't want to animate 100 of them, so let's just say there's 12 of them now, and it's the same thing here.
It's the elites, right? It's the ones that you're like, okay, we know that you're gonna make it to the end, and this is like the red shirt syndrome in Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
So if you ever see a red shirt run around, you're like, oh, he's dead.
And here they kind of all disappear. Like the senators get put into trucks, and again, this is where I'm like, all right, Carly, like, are you killing these people to stop the vote? Are you kidnapping them to stop the vote? In which case, if you do kidnap them, like, what's your end game? Or why not just kill them all there? How does this prevent any type of vote? Because now these people will just double down because, hey, look what the terrorists did. So there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense about them. But then when we get to Sharon shows up and pulls off like a fake mask, and she's like, hey, or Bucky's like, how are you showing your face here? And she's like, no one's looking for me anyway. And I'm like, then why'd you have a mask on?
Why'd you have a mask on? And why were you in Madripoor? And
turns out, to everyone's surprise, because no one saw this twist coming, like this has been like the biggest twist since we knew that the Vulture was
Frodo
actually
keeps the ring.
Yeah, that Frodo keeps the ring. So Sharon's like, hey, I'm the power broker. But also, like, again, it feels like maybe they decided really late that she was the power broker, because even being the power broker, like, she didn't do anything. Like, first she's like, I'm going to come kill you.
And her motivations are, okay, why? Why did you give Carly the super serum to begin with? Like,
right.
What are your motivations?
Like, we've complained about this in the past because it doesn't make any sense that she's like, she fought against Hydra. Like, I'm going to get ready to blow your mind here in a second, right? Because doing my research, I found out that there is a section of the internet that think that she was bad from the beginning. That during Winter Soldier, when she went in to reveal herself to Steve Rogers after Nick Fury had been shot, she was actually going in there to make sure that he was dead, and she would have killed him had he not been, or had she not thought that he had been dead. That she was bad from the beginning because Hydra found her early and approached her early and recruited her, and she was a sleeper agent. And so everything that we see in Winter Soldier, the confrontation with what's his name? I can see his face, with Crossbones. That was all staged because she was just biding her time. And yeah. Well, then that just gets into like, oh, you're a double, triple, X quadruple agent. So then why would she steal the stuff for Steve?
Again, she was playing the part.
Yeah,
gaining
whatever.
The confidence, right?
I could say that about Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers was also a Hydra agent, but you know, at the end anyway, that's all dumb. So, and her motivations are all dumb because whether, like, you can believe that's fine. It's fun to have like little fan
I don't
theories.
believe it.
Well, I know you don't because you're a sane person, and only an insane person would believe that Agent 13 was actually bad. It also
What did you think about the helicopter and Falcon soldier, American Captain Falcon? Captain America. What did you think about the helicopter scene?
That was a scene that happened. I think it's like
the senator having the flight experience.
That's whatever. If you are Captain America and you have wings, every villain you face is going to have a helicopter. Like, that has to be what it is, right? Because you have to be in the air. You have to fight someone up there, which is fine. And I think, like, Sam's suit is interesting. It's cool. He's got, like, double the amount of, like, red wings now, and they're super powerful or whatever. But I don't know. Like, it was just there. Like, I wasn't excited by it. I wasn't just like, it's like, okay, whatever. So yeah, it's just like, whatever to me. The whole helicopter. I think nothing compares to the opening like flight scene in episode 1 when we're flying through the canyon with those helicopters and wingsuits. I mean, if you look back at that, like that's the best part of this entire series was that opening for episode 1. Like, hands down. That was the most exciting. That was like Sam at his peak. Like, that is the pinnacle, like they started out on the best note and just kind of like went down like a GameStop stock for over a period of time.
All right, so we talked about the action sequences, the ones we like, the ones we don't like. There were some interesting parts. Sam was able to use his Red Wings to lift an armored car because of course. What did you think about the not so subtle social messages about it that ran throughout the show?
So I think the message of like, you know, actually listening to people and, you know, having our elected officials be better is something that resonates with me, because that's something that I'm always like talking about. Like, we need better people in power that actually care, that actually understand or even want to understand like the things that we're going through, right? Because I don't believe that any of the politicians actually care. I think they're more interested in re-election and keeping their place at the table and making money. Like, that's, I know that's a very pessimistic view of how I think of our leaders, but I think every one of them are like that. Like, if there was a good one, they get bought off and they get corrupted, and you know what? Money changes people. And so, yeah, so I think like Sam telling them, hey, be better. Also, though, it's like, well, how do you want them to be better? I think, you know, one thing that we always talk about is we need solutions, not just like, hey, just do this better. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe. And anyway, so that was fine. I think I liked Bucky being like, hey, all I heard was Black Captain America. I thought Bucky and Sam, again, like their interactions are the best part of this show. And I thought that their back and forth was really good. So, yeah, and I think everyone should just try to do better. What
about Isaiah's arc, or maybe not arc, but Isaiah's story and his weavings throughout? How do you think that ended up?
So I really like this. I liked that, even though like before when Isaiah's like, if you tell someone, they're just going to come kill me, right? And then Sam's like, hey, I'm going to tell everybody that you were the Black Captain America, which I thought was kind of weird. But apparently, like, the show just kind of forgot that and be like, no, it's fine. So I do like the memorial of Isaiah and, like, the stuff that he went through. You know, I think it's important that history gets told and it gets told correctly. I like that Eli went with them. It kind of sets up Eli, gets him more time in the spotlight to be like, hey, you're going to be a reoccurring character in the future. Hopefully they do that that series where he becomes the Patriot and he teams up with Wiccan and Speed. Is that what he's called? Yeah, I think that the other twin is called
Wiccan?
Speed. Wiccan is the magic guy, then Speed. I think they call him Speed. Maybe I'm mixing up all my superheroes. But then we'll also get Miss Marvel and then, you know, Echo from Hawkeye or whatever. So like I did like that part. I liked that, even though like I think Isaiah was kind of like too teary-eyed for the amount of like anger that he had around all that. So maybe he was just like, because at first he was like, no, I don't believe in any of this. I hate that. Don't even show me this crap. And for him to be like, you know, teary-eyed,
a little bit of a 180 kind of.
And it might have been that, like, yeah, maybe Sam did inspire him, and this was just kind of touching for him to actually see, like, okay, he is being, like, recognized for the things that he did and saving all those people. So I enjoyed that part of it. And, you know, like, even... Go ahead.
How surprised were you that Carly died?
Oh, I was not surprised. I think we were kind of, like, debating, like, she either dies or she gets changed at the end. I did think that it was very much like, I don't know, you just shot her. I guess that's just kind of like, is very anticlimactic.
Yeah, it wasn't like it wasn't even a good battle. It wasn't a battle. It was the power broker's move, right? Because it was Sharon that did it.
Yeah. So then she offs Batroc. And
then Sharon offs Batroc,
I was
right?
really,
so you're like,
I think that was the part I was the most mad at, because I think he was a good, like, just normal villain, reoccurring villain that Sam could meet. They could have some rapport, not like the Joker to Batman, but maybe like you know,
just like a white whale, kind of a white whale type thing. Like that could have been his.
Yeah,
right?
That could have been that could have been the lizard to Peter Parker. Like, hey, the lizard shows up. You don't really want to kill the lizard. You just got to stop the lizard. He's got to stop Batroc. He just likes to leap. And at this point, the two of them were just like, okay, there's this rivalry to see who's stronger and who can beat up who. And it wasn't really like, I know Batroc was like, hey, I want to murder you. But I mean, he probably could have murdered Sam. He's got a lot of weapons. So that part I was really disappointed with, that they just killed him off. But again, we didn't see any brain matter. We didn't see a body. And it's comics, so he could come back.
He could come back. The power broker could have shot a couple blanks. It could have been set up from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
He
could be a Skrull.
What about the butler?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So when the rest of the Flag Smashers get into the armored car, and the guard's like, "One world, one people," you're like, "Oh, I wonder what's gonna happen." And then it blows up, and you're like, "Well, then what was the point of that?"
Right?
Like, is it like it's so weird because it feels so disconnected with, like, if you're just gonna blow them up, you don't have like a, hey, we got this secret for you, you're gonna jump out of here, right? You just blow them up and that's it. Otherwise you're like, so who is that guy, and like, why did they just not like have them escape? It was really weird. Like, have the driver be the one world person anyway. But yeah, like the butler did that. Zemo got his revenge. Zemo's over in the raft because the Wakandans took him there. I figured they would have taken him to Wakanda.
Yeah, why didn't they take him to Wakanda?
I'm not sure. Maybe so that he can be there for some other reason. When a bunch of other villains get in there, then they become the Thunderbolts.
Is he the only one in the raft now then?
I don't know. I don't know who else would be there after the blip. Like, who are the big bads that you would
well,
send
not even
off to
not
the
even
raft?
the. Oh, I guess that's true because Steve breaks his crew out.
Yeah, and no one else was in there.
That is true. So I think at this point, Zemo is the only one there,
which is really boring. But an easy gig for that guard that's there, I guess, maybe.
Except guards in the MCU or like stormtroopers in Star Wars, like they just suck at their job.
Plus, the guard's either a Skrull, he's either Hydra, or who knows, right?
Right. Who knows what it is? They are what the story needs them to be.
Yeah.
All right. So overall, episode 6 finale.
Oh, before we do that, I have one more question, because as we cut over to the to Elaine. So Elaine takes John and John's wife. I forget what John's wife says. Over. They're in that same building with the hearing. So why would you take him there? This I don't understand. Like, why would you go to this room to have this scene? Like, this scene could have been done in a bar, at their house. It could have been done in some secret place. Like, you're
in a locker room of a high school that you used to play for, that you actually had some connection to. Because how do these three randos, one disgraced officer, the wife of a disgraced officer, and we have no idea who Elaine is at this point, we're supposed to assume that this is in a Capitol building and people can just rent a room in the Capitol building,
which also means that this was sanctioned by the government, right? Because they got him a new suit, and now she does, and when she's like, we'll need a U.S. agent, it's a really great way to shoehorn his title. Just don't say his name, just be pick up the phone when I call you. Hey, look, guys.
Assume that we know, because we probably do.
It's the U.S. agent. Oh, man. And you're like, what a dumb name. Of all the names, U.S. agent is pretty dumb.
And her banter isn't the greatest. It seems very, very forced. It's not natural.
I don't think anyone can keep up with her. I think she's at this whole level, and she's expecting people to rise to it. And they're just I don't think they can, because she's very quick, very snappy, and everyone else is just kind of there, basking in her shadow. And they're just I love being in her shadow. She talks so fast.
Right. All right. And then I guess the last part then is Bucky getting closure with his the father of the son that he had to kill as the Winter Soldier,
Mr. Nakajima.
Did you find it odd that he didn't go in and sit and talk, or even that they didn't have a moment where they looked up and made eye contact? Was that normal for you? Was that odd for you? Did you even think about it?
No, I thought about it because I thought it was odd, because it mirrors the scene where he went and tried to do it the first time and he just leaves. And we don't really get anything else after that. Even if there was I hate you, go away, or thank you for telling me, I think it would have been better than just... Because maybe he doesn't have the closure now, or if that's all it was. Because when Sam talks to him, he's like, hey, it's not enough to say sorry. You need to be of service to people to make amends. And he just all right, I guess this is it. And maybe that's all Bucky needed. He returned the book to his terrible therapist, who maybe she got fired because she was a bad therapist. I don't know.
Did you do what I did and pause and try to look at the names?
No.
Oh, not at all.
At this
Did you
point,
see
I was like,
Did you
oh,
see that
whatever, I'm done.
Zemo was one of the names.
Oh, really?
He was, yeah. And it was crossed off.
Well, don't you remember that he's like, Zemo
He
told him,
dropped
like,
the bullets, right?
no, you remember he's like, I crossed my name off in your book.
Oh, that's right. Right.
So Zemo crossed it off. And then he dropped the bullet, so.
I didn't recognize any of the other names. I don't know if we were supposed to. I thought it would have been a few kind of like, I bet maybe those who are more versed with the comics may recognize a name or two, but I didn't.
I think for these shows like WandaVision, they put a lot of the creators of the shows, like people that were working on production sets. They put a lot of those names like on all over the place. So it might have just been them.
Might have been the directors and stuff.
Yeah, I didn't read anything that was saying otherwise that, hey, here's an Easter egg. So
cool. So overall, episode 6, just the episode 6, 1 through 10, 10 being great, 1 being not so great.
I give it a solid 5. I give it 5 Captain America shield throws out of 10.
And then overall series, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier in its entirety, some of the character arcs that we saw, some of the character circles that we saw. What do you give it?
Oh, am I just ranking it as a show like 1 out of 10?
As a show.
Like as a series?
Yeah, 1 out of 10.
I don't know. I'll give it a
10 being. How about we'll do 10 being Winter Soldier, Captain America Winter Soldier, and 1 being the Invincible Hulk. Incredible Hulk.
I'll give it a 7. I'll give it a C+. It's passing. It's fine. It's fine. One thing I was very disappointed in that I really, really wanted, like we needed to see the boat on the water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Some payoff there, right?
I am so mad that we did not see the boat on the water.
And Sam casting a net off, or Bucky casting a net off.
With his nephews out there, like having the boat. I mean, this is like we were from the beginning, save the boat, fix the boat, like bring the community together to get the boat working. And we didn't see the boat on the water. Like I'm so disappointed that we did not see the boat on the water. So what about you?
It wasn't a
Where do you
terrible
put
show. It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. There were some eye roll moments. There were some cool action moments. Like the writers of the world need to get together and have some workshops and some conventions on how to end your stories and create villains that we care about.
Yeah, Stephen King should totally like lead up that whole like how to end a series, right? Stephen King should be there.
Stephen King? I don't know about Stephen King.
No, he shouldn't be there. He's terrible at endings.
Yes, Dr. Seuss did a. But like, come on, like, trust your audience enough, and and maybe, I don't know, lay off the politics and the not so subtle undertones as much. Maybe I don't know.
I think here's the thing. Like, I think put your politics in, but you need to commit to the bit.
Commit to them, yeah.
If you are going to talk about racism, if you're going to talk about all this stuff, like you need to talk about it then, and you need to put it out there. Like there's one thing, like, hey, it's real subtle. Like you and I talked about the whole bank thing. If we're like, hey, like this isn't racist, and everyone else is like, no, it's definitely racist. Like you need to talk about these things to where it's like, this is the point we are trying to get across.
Right.
And it's like, and tell that. Don't be like, all right, the people that know will know. It's like, no, like talk about it then. Address it if you want to address it. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want politics in my media. It's like, I don't know, like what to tell you. Like anytime you watch a war movie, like that's all politics. Like war is politics. So I don't know. I think if you're going to talk,
I'm not going to buy that completely because
no, war is totally politics. Yes, it is.
I'm not gonna buy that completely though, because I would rather I don't, and I said it at the onset, like I don't want to think when I watch stuff. Sometimes I just want to watch something. Not that I'm blowing off the social issues that need to be addressed within people, and right, because there are a fraction of people who do not treat other human beings the way that they should.
And you know,
and
like,
I'm going to leave it at that because again, I don't. It's not something that I care to. Maybe that's what it is. I don't presume to judge people on the way that they are doing things unless I see something that is blatantly goes against what I believe in my like heart of hearts. And so I don't know. It's for me, maybe I'm just not ready to have those conversations. Maybe I'm just not ready to have those. And I don't have the experiences necessary to become someone who could discuss those things. Because I also think that there's a portion of people on both sides of the race topic who are probably in that boat, who don't have enough experience with it to make an opinion. And I guess also I think that no matter what I say, it's going to be wrong to some group of people, right?
No, that's for sure. And I think it's valid to recognize that, like, hey, I'm not equipped to discuss this. There are other people that are more equipped to discuss this. And at the end of the day, like we say, it's like you treat people how you want to be treated.
Right.
Like if we were all to treat people how we wanted to be treated, then the world would be a better place.
Right.
And that's like no if and or buts about it. Like you treat people.
And that's the bottom line.
And that's the bottom line. And like, you know, and it's fine. Like if you don't want politics in your stuff, that's fine. That's an opinion that you have. We know that Kevin Feige was like, hey, this is about race. And like that was from the onset, we knew it was going to be in here. I just wish like if they were going to tackle it more. Like, and because there was some shying away from it, right? Like I think the Isaiah storyline could have been like way more involved, in depth. And you know what? I would have rather have gone that story than Sharon Carter like being bad or Carly being like, hey, we're gonna go smash some flags and blow some people up, but we're the good guys anyway. So this has been Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and on that note, we will
things to look forward to. Black Widow, I think, is coming to Disney Plus. Loki is coming soon.
Loki
for those who want to watch the big anti-hero thing, right? Everybody's all about the anti-hero now.
He's not an anti-hero. He's just Loki. He's the god of mischief. He does what he does, and that's what he do. But until the next time that we see you, stay tuned to the Twitter feed of the Freelancer Codex. We'll let you know when we're coming back and in what form that's going to take. And I guess this is goodbye.
Don't you have to push a button?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. This is boring. Time for Boss to get some sleep. You'll be the one surprised tomorrow, Outcast. Not me.
Oh, are you gonna shut your mouth? Because that would be a surprise.
Thank you for listening to the Freelancer Codex, a podcast brought to you by the Shut Up and Respawn Network. Follow us at Freelancer Codex on Twitter or Twitch. Send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com or voice messages to anchor.fm/freelancercodex/message. We wish to thank all of our Patreons. We are grateful for you all.